I love the fact that you use the word motion in the title of the exhibition, simply because I always felt that your work is about movement. To me, always felt like it's on the move. It's never steady. There's always something happening, and it has a bit of a transitional quality. That you never know what's going to happen next. But what is the impending crash?
Well, motion, I'm interested in what it means with regards to movement, but also in part of its acception can be thought of as being a motion like in its intentionality. And motion, in acceptance of pending crash, was a way like saying what we can be sure of when we get moving, when we get a system rolling, is that there is going to be an accident. There is going to be a crash. We can conceive anything as human beings, any kind of system that implies a sense of order and a set of rules, and we don't know exactly how it will work, but what we do know is we are also inventing its crash, we are also inventing its accident. I mean, Virilio had a brilliant phrase, I don't think I can remember it properly, but he said, the invention and the development of any new technology is the invention of its accident. You know, when everything is woven together, of course, we know that there's going to be something that goes wrong, and it's going to very quickly spread. So that's what I meant by acceptance. We're not going to stiffen up and not move knowing that there's an accident coming. We have to keep moving in acceptance.
But it's a bit of a circular narrative too, because as you said, great inventions generate crashes, but they always come from crashes. I would like to know more about these two sculptures that you put on the wall. Thank you. These are based on communal objects like trays that you find in diners and bars for tipping. And obviously you enlarged them, but you also added something else to it, which is this kind of coin-like elements here, and fragments of a cake and the credit card.
This form, the tipping tray or whatever you want to call it, I was always drawn to it because it is a container. It's got very little depth, but it is a container that serves to transport the testimonial of a transaction. Sometimes is where you also get your bill. Often, it's for the card. Often it's for the change. And so I was very intrigued by this carrier. So I always just fantasized of what would happen if I enlarged one of these. Like so much so that maybe I could lie in it or make my bed on it or something. And then suddenly, after a lot of technical wondering, which is of course anecdotal, I came to this and I thought, okay, great. Now I can do something with it. Now I can make some art. And then I was thinking, like, what are the elements that you normally get in these trays? And then it all starts from there. This one, for instance, it's all about material as well. We could just as well not talk about it and feel that there's massive metal discs, and you know that they have weight. It's a chunk of a mineral, and it's also an abstraction. What does it stand for? Of course, we have the association with tipping trays or coins, but it could also be, I don't know, like a planetary system. And because they have no inscriptions or no minting, then they are closer to abstraction, I guess, when it comes to their language, let's say. And it's very important to also point out that in the three cases, these objects are held with magnets.
Right.
You were talking about things being in motion. Well, they are like this now, but I want to convey the feeling that there may not be like this a little later. They can move. You have elements which are part of a system, let's say, and that you would expect them to see them in a certain order, and they are kind of tossed or kind of suddenly, like, I don't know, like vibration has set them shuffled them into a different position. The wedge of a pie chart is a result of an assessment. but it's an afterthought. It's how we assign meaning to experience. I think in the language of charts or statistics or is very similar to what happens, at least in the way I conceive of art. I mean, I use form to try to express what I experience in the world, what it means to be alive, and what is reality or experience. Of course, reality is bigger than you can grasp, but you have to cut corners and you have to abstract, and then you come up with a form and you put it in front of the audience. Yeah. That, I think, in the one at the bottom, it feels like it's one of these logos that indicate touchless, let's say, payment, yeah? Which is, a way of saying this is intangible, this is invisible.
Right.
And, but it's a threshold between something that is tangible, like whatever you're purchasing, whether it's an experience or a consumer good, and this system of abstraction, which is all this system of exchange of currency and etc. When I work with the forms and the visual language of statistics, for instance, I very often like to make a point of bringing these shapes back and thrusting them in the world, in the tangible world.
This reminds me of something that I remember you said at the very beginning of your career. You said something about wanting to make a gesture that points towards what is undefined or unseen. I guess this is a bit of a continuation of that.
Of course, I mean, that is why I only will speak about myself. That's why I make art, but I think that's also why we should make art. Something that's unseen is both something that is not there, and that's why you have the desire of it being there, but also something that cannot be so quickly, explained. We can aspire to that, I guess, to that poetry of saying something that always can mean something different, and it doesn't have to be just one thing that everyone agrees on. Yeah.
You have a long-standing interest in credit cards aesthetics.
Yes. Yeah.
Where does it come from?
Well, I guess my wallet, my identity, this thing that's always with me, the rounded corners, the fact that it has a chip with all of this information, the fact that it's also like a ticket to so many things, and it's also like that element that credit companies would like us to feel that connects you with this world of desire and fulfillment. And there's also something about the physicality of them, the size of them, the rounded corners. Yeah. Then the fact that credit cards and identity cards are very often the exact same format. So then who am I? I think it's all there. I mean, that is actually my credit card.
Yes.
And it's who I am, in a sense. And I'm not being cynical when I say this is who I am. And that we're all about what we consume. Not at all. But yes, I think there is so much said about a person if you were just able to see what that person spent, how they make their money, but what they spend it on. It's, I don't think, at any rate, a cynical way to define who you are. Because it can say so much about your aspirations, where you come from, what you're hiding. It says a lot.
There is also a very interesting array of materials here.
The show is all about material.
Yes,
I guess we could almost not say anything and just, the stainless steel and that curve and the way the light reflects, that's very important to me. In that one, for instance, that's all metal. It's not just all metal, but it's all about metal. It's a little bit amorphous, and I make it in this gesture of there's that blob, and then I press the card into it. I guess you can also probably start precisely at that game of play of contrasts with stainless steel. I love stainless steel. And then after a lot of observing it, most often I would say in public furnishing, like in public toilets or in conveyor belts at the conveyor tables at the airport and everything, of course I came to realize stainless steel is always in these places, because it repels the mess. It's very easy to clean. And that's also why it's always near our mess, because we are so alien to it.
When I saw this piece for the first time, I was reminded when you were a kid and you trace coins.
Well, rubbing frottage is a really primal technique.
Exactly. Yes.
It's been done for millennia, I think.
Right.
One of the things that I find amazing is there's like an apparition. You know, you have a piece of paper, you can't see what's behind, and then you do like this, and without actually tracing it, it kind of appears. And
and also the idea that you can somehow forge.
Yes, exactly. There's a fidelity. There's a fidelity that you could never trace. That's also in the early credit card voucher machines. You needed the relief of the. In fact, I'm already cooking some of these that have the credit card voucher impression. There's a lot of sculptural gesture that I think goes on here.
Yeah.
First of all, the fabrication of these large coins. I mean, these are actually actual rubbings. So, needless to say, the object behind the silk was exactly that size, and it came from something like this. So that gesture is already something physical, sculptural.
You use the mixed bag of euros and pesos.
You travel a lot, and you find yourself suddenly across in Europe, and there's like a coin there that feels like it's a euro coin, but it's actually a pound. And then you bring it out, and you think, no, that's not the one. It's a bit like that. Like in my pocket, this is very common. So, I didn't want these pieces. These are 2 of 6 or an open family. I didn't want them at all to have the feeling that they are a collection of coins. They're not. They are like whatever was in my pocket.
But it opens up to a set of questions,
I guess,
because you can identify what they are.
Exactly.
The thing about debit cards or credit cards is that they are transnational. Here, there is a representation of something more tangible.
Political boundaries. I mean, there's nothing more political than economy.
Yes.
Yeah. I think my work is always political because it's about exchange, and it's about the power of purchase. And then I guess when you have a piece like this one there's probably more emphasis in the lines of connection. Then you think probably again to what we're talking about earlier, systems that weave us all together, and then how the ripples, you could trace them. You could trace the cause and effect and the ripples of consequence. And coins are also carriers not just of value, but they're carriers of germs and mess, and they carry my DNA. The coins in my pocket are again like a portrait of me, and it's a portrait that also travels. So here again, I'm still thinking very much of systems, and systems that by any account are physical too.